Wir waren auf der Gencon in Indianapolis, der größten Pen-and-Paper-Con der Welt, eigentlich um eine Dokumentation über dieses fantastische Event zu drehen. Und die kommt auch noch. Bald auf diesem Kanal. Aber wir müssen natürlich auch über aktuelle Entwicklungen der RPG-Szene berichten und daher haben wir zumindest einige der Rollenspielschaffenden interviewt, zu denen wir bereits gute Connections hatten. Den Anfang macht dieses Video mit den Schweden von Free League und Stockholm Kartell sowie den Iren von Cubicle 7, die vor allem Warhammer-Rollenspiele machen. Die Interviews fanden am Tag nach der Verleihung der Ennies Awards statt, bei denen vor allem Free League wieder massiv abgeräumt haben. Weitere Videos folgen.
We're with Thomas Herenstam at Free League, and first of all, Thomas, nice to see you and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
You got 7 Ennies, which feels like at least a third of all the Ennies.
I didn't count, but yeah, it was great. It was a crazy night last night, and so much fun, and so humbling, and so we're so grateful for everyone who voted, and it was just an amazing night.
Yeah, and also one thing I definitely want to talk about because I have lots of questions, and it's already sold out, the starter box for Dragonbane. So
yeah. It actually we brought a lot, but they actually sold out now. It's Saturday afternoon, and the last one went about an hour ago. So we should have brought even more, but we're still, it's super cool to have some. It's our own game and our own IP. It's not a license, and that makes it a bit, extra fun to see it take off like that. And we run demos in our game room and full events, and it's there is a lot of good energy and people seem to be taking to it. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun to see.
You have to tell me. I guess everyone asks it. Why mallards? Why ducks?
That is a good question. Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. Dragonbane is actually a new edition of a really old Swedish RPG. It's kind of the Dungeons and Dragons of Sweden. It's called Drakar och demoner, and it came out in '82. This version, of course, is very different from the one in '82. This is has the same kind of core, but it's been developed a lot, and we put our own design philosophies into it. So now it's very much a Free League game, but it does have that heritage of that old game. And that original game was actually based on early Chaosium designs. It shares its origins with RuneQuest. And RuneQuest has the ducks. I think, nobody really knows, but we think the ducks came into Drakar och demoner from that original, these origins in RuneQuest. And they just kind of stayed. But the ducks have been a bit of a point of contention in Swedish role players, because some people who want a more serious game, they really hate the ducks, and others think they're wonderful. And when we just started to do this game and thinking about it, how should our version of Drakar och demoner, how should Dragonbane be? What should it be like? And we decided we wanted a more kind of lighter tone, more of a fun game that's not super serious, not grimdark. We have that in other games. And then we felt that, let's embrace the ducks, because they kind of set the tone. If you see the duck of the art of the duck assassin, you kind of feel, okay, this is perhaps not the super serious game. It's still a brutal challenge. It's still a serious game, not an easy game to kind of play. There are challenges there, but the tone is a bit lighter and a bit more lighthearted, and the duck kind of summarizes that in a nice way.
Yeah, I've heard lots of people going, is that Darkwing kind of like Darkwing Duck in a fantasy setting? And yeah, it kind of, I think it resonates with lots of people who like have good memories of like the ducks in Chaosium and things like that internationally.
And we just noticed that because that art piece kind of popped up, and we saw it and we used it for some ads and things like that, and people took to it immediately. And also here you see we have some banners and things of that, and it really seems to be drawing people in a fun way. I mean, the game is, you have your classical fantasy some beings as well, like the elves and halflings and dwarfs and stuff, but the ducks are kind of what sets it apart a little bit. Yeah.
And I've looked a little bit at the quick starter at the box, and it is kind of a mixture of your usual game engine, and you have the re-rolls and you can push rolls, but it's a D20 system with rolling low. So it's the D20 is the heritage from the older game, or
that's
where it
right.
comes from?
Yeah, it's always been just like the Chaosium games. It's a skill-based roll-under system, but it's D20, and that has been the case for earlier versions as well. It's a roll under D20, so it's like the opposite of Dungeons and Dragons. You want to roll low rather than high, and you want to roll equal or under to your skill level. So we kind of kept that because we wanted to keep that kind of legacy. But then we brought in from our other Year Zero games, we brought in the push mechanic, that reroll mechanic, and conditions and stuff like that. So it's kind of a nice mesh between the two.
Yeah. So you've been experimenting with this formula of the push mechanic and different, like in Blade Runner, where you have different dice sizes, basically. So where's it going? You are always getting more IPs, more new games. So are we going to see lots of different systems, but always with the push mechanic and like this? Do you wager on this role?
Yeah, that's kind of how we do. We kind of have some core things that we really like and want to keep, and it's also become part of our kind of identity, the push mechanic, and also most of the games have the year zero kind of dice pool thing. Dragonbane does a twist to that. It's D20 based, but it still has a lot of the same philosophy. Also the accessibility, kind of ease of play, and the way we want to approach this. I mean, many of the old kind of roll-under skill-based systems were quite fiddly, lots of modifications, plus this, minus that. We want to get away from that, so we just have like these kind of easier mechanics to use, even though it is D20 based. But yeah, we try to find, staying true to our ideas about game design, but still doing new stuff.
Okay, and as you said, it is a harsh game in that you can fail and you can fail terribly.
Yeah.
But it's more lighthearted in the design. But something that's coming up with The Walking Dead, that sounds like that's going to be less lighthearted. What are you looking for as a game feeling, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, that's definitely, we're talking more on the grimdark side for sure. Even though it can be fun to play. I mean, we had a lot of fun playtesting it. But yeah, The Walking Dead, what we wanted to focus on there and what we feel is kind of the core of the show, the TV show, is also, it's not about, the dead. It's not about the zombies. It's about the people and the personal relationships between them. And that's really what this game does. Of course, there will be fighting, walkers, and action and horror, but I think the meat of the game, really the heart of the game, is your relationships to the other survivors, and that really. And the game designer, his name is Niels Hintze. He did also Tales on the Loop and Wesen, and he's that's really his thing. He really loves diving deep into like the personal relationships. That's really the experience we're looking for there. Is really kind of how to not only to survive the zombie apocalypse, but what that makes you and what kind of person you become in that world.
Okay, so it's going to be more about the social relationships, and something that I'm very much looking forward to, and that you just announced, the Moria box, because that's been floating around since the first edition of the One Ring and always got pushed back, and now you are actually doing it. What's it going to look like? Yeah,
it's so much fun it's been a long time coming, like you say, even before we started working with the One Ring. And it's coming together now. We're seeing, we're doing the, maps, art, the text is largely, the first draft. Even though we might add things, this will be a Kickstarter on August 29th. And of course, we might add stuff after that in terms of stretch goals and stuff. But we're already working on the core product, and it's great to see it coming together. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to playing it myself.
I kind of get the feeling, because you took the idea of the singular points of interest that you can place around the map from Forbidden Lands, and crossed over to the One Ring. And it feels like Moria is going to be just lots of these points of interest that you can just combine.
Yeah, that's the idea. We want to do Moria will be like an open sandbox, like this huge, immense mega dungeon, and the way to do that, we think, is to kind of make it sandbox style, so you really give the hands to the players to explore it the way they want. Of course, there will be factions and agendas and things, but there will be overall a sandbox style thing with these landmarks, these points of interest that you can kind of combine in different ways. And that's interesting, because that's really one of the things I think. Yeah, and if I understand correctly, they kind of made Francesco, who designed the One Ring, be wanting to work with us. He saw the Forbidden Lands and thought our adventure site concept from there was kind of nice. And then, he adapted that into landmarks in the One Ring. They're not exactly the same. But there was, I think, if I understand him correctly, that was one of the things he liked, and that led to him meeting us, and that led to us publishing his game. So that's really cool.
Okay. I also have to ask about Blade Runner, because that box, the introductory box, was one of the best sessions that we had over the last few years, and it won Ennies, so rightfully so. What is going to come out next for that game? Because there was hinted at as more storylines and things like that.
Yeah, we have announced a new case file called Fiery Angels. So that's like the sequel to Electric Dreams that was in the starter set. So it very much continues that story. It's in standalone case file, a new case to solve. But the idea is that we'll carry over some of the NPCs. We'll come back. Some of the story elements you'll be a little bit familiar. You're intended to play with the same characters if you can. So that really continues that story, and the idea is to have it as a box set with this, all of those handouts and that thing, and give that kind of same gaming experience that you got from Electric Dream. So I'm working on that right now. That's kind of what I do when I'm not here. I'm now in the final stages of writing it, and we've started. The art is coming in for that one as well, and play testing is next.
Okay, I just have to say, just seeing that I can flip around the picture from the scene and see if you enhance. So many good ideas that just carried over the spirit of the movie.
Very cool.
Also, let's talk a little bit about Forbidden Lands, because with the Blood March, the last expansion, you have unveiled lots of the backstory of the world.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the next way we're going is Elderland, and so we're going to see more what's going on there.
That's right. The way Forbidden Lands works, each expansion adds another map and expands the world with a big map, and that's kind of that way it goes. So the first expansion went north, the second, the Blood March, went west, and now the next one most likely will be Alderland, which is the land to the south, which is basically the more civilized or the more developed part of the world, which has collapsed a little bit. So it's this is something the lead writer Eric Cronstrom, who did the setting work for the book. That's what he's working on right now, and we're talking back and forth. But that is the next expansion for that. We don't really have a timeline yet, but he's hard at work at it, and that's going to be really cool when we get to announce it and play it.
Okay, and I also already said congratulations, but the game that really got everyone really in a frenzy when voting for the Ennies obviously was Weißen.
Yeah.
And so that's the most Swedish game of your Swedish games.
Yeah.
What's that feel like? The background, the traditions, the stories, the fairy tales of your home.
Yeah, it is interesting because we thought that was kind of niche. We never expected that to be like a big game because it had that kind of, it's like about weird Nordic folk tales, and it's a strange concept, but people are really taking to it. And I think it's because it's fundamentally a good game. It has the mystery solving thing. It has amazing art by Jon Egerkrans, and it's well written by Nils Hintze, who's doing The Walking Dead as well. And just the whole setting, it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun for people to design their own stuff, because they dig where you can explore your own folklore and make stories about that. And now are also expanding the scope. We did Mythic Britain and Ireland, so that kind of expands the scope to that geographical area. And the next one is we're looking at doing like an Eastern European book, so that's kind of coming up fairly soon. So we want to kind of broaden the scope a little bit, so because there's so much cool folklore everywhere that can kind of become really cool basis for role playing.
I don't know if you've heard of it or if you're aware of it, but there's kind of a fan expansion for Weißen for Ukrainian fairy tales.
Yeah, definitely. I saw that. We did a little, we have that community content program called Free League Workshop, and there's a lot of good stuff on there, and lots for Weißen, and among them there's this Ukrainian Mythic Ukraine supplement, and we did a little promotion for it. We thought it was really cool, and that is actually one of the things we're looking at. We'll see what happens, but if we do like an expansion focus on like Eastern Europe, we'll probably bring in Ukraine into that as well a little bit. So we'll see. That's really cool to see.
That would be lovely. As with Mythical Ireland and Britain, you got Graham Davis on the team, so you're probably going to looking at writers from Eastern Europe for this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. I mean, we feel it's important for Weißen. We want it to be written by people who are actually from that region and know the local folklore, because that's kind of the pitch of the game, that it's actual folklore. It's not kind of the fantasy version of it. It's the actual folklore. And then it's important to have someone writing who actually really knows that. So that, we are looking at writers from that region for the next one as well. Yeah.
Okay. And one thing I have to ask you personally, because looking at all the different game lines, there you have a credit as a designer in mostly all of them. How do you do that? How is this structured? How is this organized? Do you have team meetings where all the teams sit together and...
Yeah, well, it's not very organized. It's kind of a chaotic process, I guess. So, I mean, I've always been interested in trying new things, doing different things. So I've always enjoyed trying to kind of do something and then do it differently for the next one. So for me, I went from working on Blade Runner, which is a pretty heavy existential game, to Dragonbane, which is like whimsical and fun. And for me, that's what I want to do. So that is a challenge so that I get excited about too many things. So it's a challenge to kind of keep focused and actually, so I have to finish one thing and then move on to something else. But yeah, it's of course I am involved in quite a few of the games here, but we also have other writers do amazing work, like Francesco for The One Ring, Niels Henze for Walking Dead Says on the Loop, and Matthias Johnson-Hawke for Symbaroom. So we definitely have a bunch of really talented game designers, so that's really cool.
I can imagine that is one of the most important bits of the job, to find the people that you can work with and that you kind of on the same wavelength with.
Very much so. I mean, and it's not only because we get a lot of pitches from game writers, and some of them might be really excellent, but it's also not enough that they're great. It's also they have to be really on the same wavelength, and that's rare. So when we find someone like that we can work with, and we really kind of work together, that's amazing. So so we're constantly kind of on the lookout for that. But yeah, it needs to be the right person. Yeah.
It's worked out so far.
Yeah.
I've talked about how many Ennies you've won so far because I'm always flabbergasted. Do you feel an impact that when a game has won an Emmy, people there's more eyes on it? Do you feel like that the sales rise?
We haven't done any careful analysis really, but yeah, I think there is something to that. I think, for example, when Tales from the Loop, that was 6 years ago now, won a bunch of Ennies here, and we were completely surprised. We were not here.
Yeah.
So we were like, what's happening? It was like, and then I think after that, I think that helped general attention and sales, I think also. And now it's a bit of we had Mythic Britain and Ireland book. We had some here, but they ran out yesterday. So that's a bit of a shame when it got the 3 Ennies and we don't have any books here. So we should have brought more. So I think it's maybe not sales automatically, but general, I think it does help attention for the game and for Free League, and so it's definitely it's valuable to, and it's great to see. I mean, the people who have like Vesa and Mrs. C, Graham Davis and Joan Egerkrans and their work because we thought it was amazing, and to see it rewarded like that, it's just great.
Well, thank you so much. And I remember 6 years ago when all the Ennies went to you and you weren't there. Chris from Odysseus, he walked up to the stage and always said, "Thank you, Sweden."
Yeah, I remember. And so after, I was like, we should have been there. It's like, oh.
Maybe.
Yeah, so we've been here every year since, except for COVID. So yeah.
Okay, so, well, thank you, Sweden.
Thank you.
Keep making excellent games. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Christian, Carl and Johan are from Stockholm Kartell, and I hope you know already about Stockholm Kartell because we've been playing Mörk Borg and Cyborg on streams. So I've kind of cornered them to ask them a little bit about their games. What have you brought to your tour? You're basically touring cons right now. So how's it going, and what have you brought for us?
We've brought, mainly the thing that's new is Thoughts and Prayers over here. It's let me hold it up. It's a charity scene basically, so it has material for all the games that we do, as well as things like album reviews, essays, like random stuff that we like, and we sell it this year, and all the money goes to charity. So
okay.
And plus we brought a bunch of other stuff as well, like as you can see the stock is getting low. We're running out of things, but
we were here 2 days ago and there was a lot more.
Yeah,
I remember. And I wanted to ask you about, we've talked about your games for quite some time, and there's in Germany there's a discussion, is this art? Is this a game? Is this like true? Or is this a little bit, I don't want to use the word, but some people said pretentious. So what is kind of your design philosophy behind these books? For whom do you write?
For whom we write? Ourselves. Absolutely ourselves. We make the games we want to play, and we make them how we want to make them and how we want to run them, and that's the most important thing for us. The success and that so many people are interested in them is still kind of a surprise to us, because we really think that we make the games we want to play. So yeah, absolutely us.
Okay, and how did Mörk Borg come to be? Like, what was the basic idea behind it? We want to break it down, but make it like I like the idea that you don't have tables per se, but that the tables are like hidden or worked into the design, things like that. Who came up with that?
So Pelle Nilsson, who is not here today, is the author of Mörk Borg, and his idea originally was to have just a small book that you can have with you on the pub or at conventions or just for one-shots, and that was later like expanded upon and became this full book that we have. So first it was just a zine, or it was just 2 sheets of paper, and that philosophy is still very true. Like we want to have a quick game, something you can just pick up and play and just have fun with. So
yeah, and there's a lot of randomizing, a lot of random tables in your games. So what does a good random table make? Because lots of games have those and then they're boring. But how do you make them not boring? Because those are excellent.
How do you make them not boring? I don't know. I mean, you fill them with non-boring stuff. I think there are some different types of random tables. Some of them are like intended to be used many, many times. They should have lots of entries. They should have maybe more generic entries or entries that you can reuse a lot of times. And then you have tables that maybe you use the results once and you might even replace it with another result. And those are quite different, I think, in terms of how you would write them. But the generic one, I think we want to make sure that the setting and the feel of the game is imparted, kind of conveyed through those table entries. That's the idea. And we try to pick entries that we really feel distill what the game is about.
Yeah.
I can't really say how we do that.
No, but I think maybe you can think of it as the entries must lead to interesting and fun play.
Yeah.
Like it has to inspire and lead somewhere. And so, yeah, we actually talk a lot about how to make tables that interact well with each other, or build interesting sessions and so. I don't know. It's a passion of ours to have tables, definitely.
It's like if you come up with an entry for a table and you immediately get pictures in your head of interesting situations, that's probably a good entry. If you just don't really know how to use that, maybe try to find something else.
You have kind of taken the basic idea of these games and taken them to different settings and different genres. What will be the next game?
The next game, don't think we have anything to talk there, but we did announce 2 things this Thursday. It was 2 days ago, and one thing is called Waste 20x4, which is a new book for Cyborg, coming out sometime next year. That will have more of everything, vehicles and classes and scenarios and hazards and a lot of things. And then the other one is a book for Death in Space.
Yes, which is called Dead Flag Contracts, and it's a campaign book more focused on adventure scenarios that you could string together into a sandbox campaign relatively easily. And yeah, with some extra tools connected to those adventures.
One thing I really like about your games is the usability. You pick them up and you can, in Mörk Borg, you can take a dungeon and you can just play it from the page, basically. And I don't have to prepare. What are your tips for new designers who come maybe from a different kind of school where you have a dungeon plan and then you have pages and pages and pages and pages of text and everything's in there?
I think how... When you describe a room, when you describe a situation, think about how can pretty much every word, every sentence, how will this be used at the table? Or before, maybe during prep or whatever. And try to get that conveyed in a smallest way possible. And use things like bolding and other ways to highlight the most important things. And make it easy to find at the table when you are looking there. And just like, if you're writing a long sentence that is not really usable at the table, maybe it should be somewhere else in the book rather than the room description, or maybe it shouldn't be there at all. And a good trick is to, like, if you name the room master bedroom, you probably don't have to list that there's a bed in there, especially not if the map shows that there's a bed in there. You don't have to duplicate that information for most GMs. So yeah, think about that, minimize it and see, can this be used? But on the other hand, some people write really long descriptions. So I mean, if you're one of them, write like that. Write for you.
Yeah, but honestly, as a GM with little time, I'm thankful if you cut down, like, there's no useless text in your adventures and your dungeons, and I'm thankful for that. And one last thing, one that I have repeated every time I run Cyborg, I love the rule 0. Yeah, because Cyberpunk usually is not punk enough.
Yeah, that was very important to me and to us who making Cyborg to focus on the punk part. And I mean, we made a very angry game because we are very angry. So yeah, it's important. Cyberpunk should be more than just a style, in my opinion. So once again, we make the games we want to see and want to play. So that's how it ended up that way.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And honestly, I enjoy your games. Just keep doing what you're doing. I know you write them for yourself, but I'm happy I can enjoy them too.
We will.
We're with Podrick at the Cubicle 7 booth, and we're going to talk about lots of Warhammer things, I guess. And also, congratulations, you've got some nice bling there.
It's fun. I don't like to draw attention to it, but
no.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to win a silver Ennie last night for best production value on Empire and Ruins, the last part of the Enemy Within Adventure, Part 5. And I'm overjoyed to be recognised. So thanks to all the fans who voted for that, and huge thanks to everybody out there who worked and contributed to that one. They know who they are. Too many to list. So yeah, we're a bit over the moon on that one, really. I am, anyway.
That was such a huge endeavour to take this huge campaign that also has people keep talking about it. Many people have started it, never ended it. Has been lots of talk about the last few ones. Now you finally have this revamped, this director's cut version. What's it feel like? Is it like weight off your chest or
It's a little bit of both. At first it was all sort of relief, and now it's mostly like, that was great, I'd do that again. That was really good. So a bit nostalgic for it already. But no, it was great, and to be honest, a privilege to have worked on it at all. So I'm just delighted to have it out there and delighted to be getting feedback from people that they're enjoying it and having fun. And so like if you're at a convention, you see us, come and tell us about your adventures in the Enemy Within. We do not get tired of hearing about it.
Yeah. Well, we are playing the Enemy Within ourselves right now. We're streaming it. We're in Death on the Reich, and we talked a little bit before we started the cameras rolling. And you said that in the Horned Red, which has like a Bond-ish vibe with
sort of a high adventure
lair.
of evil layers and all sorts of things. There's certainly someone with a terrible plan. That's, I don't want to give spoilers away on it, but it's big in scope, and sure, there's certain themes that Graham was playing with that one that came out well.
Yeah, and you said that Graham would maybe have gone a little bit further with like tropes. And...
Possibly. I couldn't comment. Possibly.
Okay, so it's always with something as big as Liz. Of course, it's a team effort, so you have to have input from all the people to get it just right. Absolutely.
We were lucky to work with Graham Davis on it to get the director's cut, but we were lucky to have so many other contributors as well. And you can't do like a sort of a fourth edition of such a big campaign without also recognizing the work of everyone that's gone before. So from the very first edition all the way up and through, so much has gone into it, and I really hope we've delivered a version that ties it all together and lets people play it and enjoy it in the best possible way. And that's really what we're going for. So like I said, come tell us about how you got on. We love hearing about it.
How it turns out for you. And I kind of get the feeling that the old world is more alive than ever, even though in the tabletop they kind of killed it for a while.
Well, they just put it asleep for a while, though.
Yeah.
It's not. It hasn't gone away completely. No, the old world is definitely in Cubicle 7 as alive as it ever was, and we're really looking forward to future things coming down the road. So anyone who's been keeping up with us, we recently did Sea of Claws, which lets you kind of get out on the sea and explore a little bit. We've also released its pre-order now. It will be in print soon. Lustria, So a guide to the continent of Lustria, which is like somewhere that Warhammer Fantasy never really got to go in a big way before. So we're really, really excited to have done that. And it is a very grim and perilous jungle, monster-infested continent for your players to explore. And then coming up, we're really looking forward to doing a dwarf and an elf book. So the dwarf book's going to focus on dwarf holes in the Grey Mountains and be a really good player resource, as well as sort of a guide to the holes. So that will have like dwarf runesmithing, just new careers and tons of stuff that people have been asking for. And we're also doing a high elf book, provisionally Sea Lords of Kotik, but I just not quite nail down. But it will be set in Kotik on Ultuan, and that's going to give players everything they need to do. Like, if you want, you can have, take your high elf characters and mix them in with other groups. But our goal is to create like a setting and a player's guide that you could easily just play a high elf group on Ultuan and have a Warhammer Fantasy roleplay adventure that never touches upon the old world at all. Because we want to expand out and have the Warhammer world is very big with lots of opportunities, and it's really exciting to explore them.
Okay, so you're going all different ways, all axes of exploration, new continents, new species backgrounds.
As much as they'll let us, we're going everywhere we can go. So it's excited about that. And obviously with the old world coming back as a tabletop war game from Games Workshop, we're really keenly looking at that. We're following that as closely as anybody, yes. I think. And there's definitely opportunities there that we're really excited to explore.
I'm also curious about more adventures, but because so far I've been very happy with what's come out for Warhammer Fantasy. So Are we going to have more like small things like Überstrike adventures, or more bigger things, or are you like one huge campaign is enough for now?
Well, you see, that's the thing. You get to like thinking back that like, oh, it wasn't that hard. Actually, it wasn't that bad. It's okay. those late nights and sleepless moments and sudden calls to the printer were all worth it. We did just put out Überstrike Adventures 3, which is a collection of some shorter adventures. But I do think we're about ready to go back and tackle a campaign. So we've been saying for a few years we want to do our own campaign, our own sort of enemy within scale of thing. So we've got a few ideas for that. The format's not exactly set, but it will definitely be a multi-book campaign, not a collection of adventures like one big tale to be told. I'd also like to do sort of a chaos-focused, maybe mini campaign that would be good, that might go outside that. So chaos-focused in the sense that I really have like these questions about what happens to mutants in the Empire if they're unfortunate enough to suffer from some kind of like mutancy. They've been exposed to Warpstone or something, but they're still essentially, loyal citizens, or certainly not ready to throw their lot in with a chaos cult. Like, what happens to them, and what happens to your player character if you get a mutation and you just can't pass for a normal citizen of the Empire anymore? So I'd love to do a book that sort of like talks about that, an adventure that explores like one of the possible fates your character could have.
So you're not playing the Evil guys, and it's not especially.
Well, I think it'd be morally grey.
Okay.
Like
Warhammer Fantasy isn't already.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd like to do that, but that'd be a separate endeavor. We do want to do a bit more chaos-focused stuff coming up. We know people have been looking for a sort of a Realms of Chaos style book. We definitely want to do that, but we probably think it might be a couple of books where we'll dive into a specific aspect of chaos, explore how to use it in your game, give lots of tools that people can use to really apply that. So, character building stuff and GM sort of like world building and campaign building stuff, just to make sure they're getting things that they can like directly use in their games. So not all in one big massive book that can be a bit overwhelming.
And I do have a question about design, about going about how to design the stories and stuff, because I always like have discussions with people who say Warhammer Fantasy, Warhammer 40k, things like that. It's also grim dark, and it's like it's also satire. It's also tongue in cheek. So what's your stance on this?
Oh, the satire and the commentary is there. I mean, the world building that has gone into it and the products that are done for all the Warhammer games, there's art to that and there's love to that, and there's individuals involved in it who have certain stories they want to tell, about the world, and they can't help but put a bit of themselves into it. So you do get a bit of the satire and so on. I mean, to me, the bit that sort of contrasts the grim dark are the moments of hope that you kind of set across against it. I think that exists in everything, but I think it's most prevalent in Warhammer Fantasy roleplay, which for me gets the balance of sort of like these lovely moments and these moments where you can like see a little bit further and hope to achieve something, offset against this like fairly tough world that doesn't particularly care about your character. You're not necessarily anyone special, and beyond the borders of the Empire and even within it, there's a force that's even more like entropic and terrible and horrible than that. So you've got all that there, but at the same time, you can still have Halfling Pie Week. So you can enjoy both aspects of that.
And Halfling Pie. So
Yeah, exactly.
It's also the most grounded of the settings. Like those are real people that you're playing, and not like oversized heroes as in Soulforged or in 40k.
I should think so, though. I mean, in all of the other games have something to speak to them as well. You know, I think Soulbound is great to be able to tell those kind of epic stories. I'm really excited about Imperium Maledictum, which I think gets a little bit of the Warhammer flavor of these, you know, lower level. You're not a Space Marine, you're not a Sister of Battle. You're sort of like an ordinary citizen of the Imperium who's struggling against. I mean, if chaos is bad in the old world, chaos in the Imperium across the galaxy is much worse, much larger in scale, way more prevalent, way more destructive. And sort of in the face of that, and in the face of an uncaring Imperium, how do you make a life? Like, what do you do in the face of all that? And I think those are cool questions to explore.
So Imperium Maledictum is going to be like the lower power levels than the normal people.
Yeah, it's out now for pre-order, so the PDF's out there and people can check it out. It'll be in stores in November. Touch wood, you know, praise the Emperor, etc. So it should be available soon, and we're really looking forward to expanding out on that and exploring on it. So we took a lot of the systems and sort of ethos of Warhammer Fantasy 4th edition and brought them over to that as well, along with a few twists just to, you know, spice it up a bit in some ways and make it work a little better with, you know, the Imperium and with the setting.
And I also have one very specific questions about design choices. Do you have the rule that there has to be one stupid German name at least in each book? Like literal name?
I mean, it's not a rule. I did, you know, our translation partners did send me a query one time, and I forget the name of the character in the COD German that was used, but they did say, listen, do we have to translate this name? Because it translates as Dr. Teeth.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, no, yes, I'm not sure. I trust you, translation partner. You guys are great. Go for it.
There's a demon named Zahnarzt, which means dentist. I guess
that's probably the one. Yeah, it was like Dr. Deer Dentist. It could be that one. There was I mean, it's part of the culture of Warhammer, which was an awful lot of English-speaking people coming together to be like, Germanic stuff's cool. We're doing our best.
Actually, I think it's very fun because if you have a person that is literally named I'm Innocent, it's like a whodunit. She probably didn't. And I think my favorite is a baron called Aloysius von Arschloch, which means literally asshole. So I think he's not the good guy in the story.
No, I think that's, I'm going to have to be more careful forever now.
No, please don't. Please don't. It's so much fun.
I'll forget this conversation ever happens. That's fine.
Thank you so much for forgetting. Yeah, what were we talking about? Okay, that's to wrap it up. We've talked a lot about Warhammer Fantasy. We've talked about the Imperium Maledictum. Yeah. And Soulbound, what's happening there?
Soulbound's coming along quite nicely. We're also, so the next book up for that will be Ulfenkarn, which we're really excited for. That's a guide to the Cursed City of the Cursed City board game. And that introduces something that might be familiar to your Warhammer Fantasy players, which is a grim and perilous rule set. So as you're saying, Soulbound is pretty high-powered, pretty epic sort of high fantasy. The grim and perilous rules sort of take away some of those abilities and powers to create characters that are a little less sort of capable and that will make the struggle through the Cursed City a little bit more desperate. So that's going to be cool, I think. And there's going to be a vibe there that I think Warhammer Fantasy players might enjoy. After that, we're doing Runes of the Past, which is a collection of really cool locations you can drop into your adventures across the Mortal Realms. And then after that, we're doing Champions of Chaos, name pending. But it will be a whole new, essentially core rulebook compatible with all the Soulbound stuff that's gone before, but you will play powerful figures in the Forces of Chaos, intent on overthrowing Sigmar and reforging the Mortal Realms in your own image or grinding them to dust.
Okay, so there you're going to play the Evil guys.
Morally grey.
Very dark grey.
Very, very dark grey. Yeah. You'll be playing Agents of Chaos in the very literal sense, capital C, Chaos. So very excited for that. And then Wrath and Glory, we've got a lot of things going on as well. So that's our more sort of like high action adventure game in Warhammer 40,000 universe. So right now, I think Threat Assessment Xenos should be hitting stores like by the end of this month, beginning of September, which is like our bestiary of chaos or of Xenos threats. And that one's packed, loads of stat blocks, really good GM tool, I think. So very excited for that. And from there, we're going out to Vow of Absolution. We're going to take a look at some Space Marine chapter, the Absolvers, and give a lot of Space Marine player options to players. And then Eldari, Inheritance of Embers, which is going to have tons of Eldari options. So Craft Worlders, Drukhari, Harlequins, and Corsairs all in. So
Eldari?
Eldari, yeah. So yeah, big book of Eldari stuff. So kind of looking at how they're getting on in Gilead, but also just a good source book for Eldari games.
No, I was not. No, Inari was the one I was looking for. Eldari, of course, all of them. The Inari, the reborn god of death for the Eldari.
Oh, Ennies.
Ennies, yeah.
Ennies, yeah. It's spelled with a Y, but the pronunciation is beyond me. It's a secret of Games Workshop, how it's pronounced. Unid, yeah. So that we talk a bit about Unid in the book, and we kind of present that as a framework for bringing together Drukhari of very disparate factions to sort of pursue that goal of resurrecting their god of death and maybe doing something about Slaanesh. More power to them, I say. Could be a big help for everybody if they did something there.
Yeah, or it could backfire spectacularly.
I mean, that's actually, it could be that too. So I can't wait to find out. Yeah. So we've an awful lot coming down the line. We're really excited about it all, and it's great to see people at Gencon and meet the fans and see and hear about people enjoying our games. That honestly it's such a privilege and brings so much joy to us.
And also you get a really nice medal.
Yeah.
Out of it.
Silver Ennie, which we received, fantastic. I think we touched one already for the Enemy Movie
Like, Gencon is great. You get to meet people, you get new...
Yeah. There's a video of me online somewhere accepting it, almost breaking down. I think in tears, but...
I think we watched you from above. We were like...
very good.
In the gallery.
Cool, okay. How was it? No, don't tell me. I don't need to know. It was fine.
I think you were fine.
Okay, good. But yeah, that was a lovely moment, personally, but again, accepting it on behalf of so many people and contributors too long to list.
Yeah. Well, all the best to the team.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to everything that's coming in the future for all the
definitely
Warhammers.
The next time we meet, I want to hear more about the campaign and how it's going for you all. So tune into that.
Let's see if we're still death on the Reich, or if we've moved on.
Get to mid. You have to get to the next bit. No spoilers, but Power Behind the Throne is one of my favorite parts of it.
Oh yes. I'm really looking forward to that. That's kind of my vibe. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great.